There we go. Okay, so let us move on to Creation Watch because we're visiting an old friend. If it's able to load, we are visiting an old friend called Conservapedia. Remember when? Remember when Conservapedia used to be what I did for Creation Watch? Just Creation Watch was just my Conservapedia section, and I talked about different articles that they had, and I read them, and we laughed about them, and that's how we did Creation Watch back in the day. And I'm like, you know what? I got to expand this, broaden my horizons to make sure that not just one voice is being overturned with the young Earth creationism. I wanted to explore AIG and CMI and all these different institutions, Living Water or whatever. Definitely, like Hovind and Powell, Dinosaur Adventureland, all that crap. I wanted to address them as well. So I moved out and broadened my horizons. But I get nostalgic for Conservapedia. I used to, when Conservapedia first came to my attention, it was like, I want to say 2015, maybe a little bit earlier than that. And I really spent hours just reading their articles and just an utter amazement of the positions being espoused by the people, by the editors. And then I came to find out from my friend PZ Myers, who has his own robust article over here on Conservapedia, that these articles are actually written by high school students for a grade at private Christian schools. So, students, children, underage individuals are being directed to Conservapedia for education and to actually edit the articles themselves for a grade. They're being graded on making and creating articles like this. So, I thought it might be topical to talk about grooming. Is Conservapedia grooming? Is Conservapedia grooming LGBTQ students to be heterosexual, or to try to be heterosexual and to live the life of a heterosexual? Are they creating a narrative that being homosexual is frowned upon to steer their students towards heterosexual relationships? Now, grooming in and of itself is specifically for taking an underage child and making sure that they follow the sexual proclivities that you favor when they grow up, and may potentially be a partner for yourself. So, the fact that this is being produced for children, by children, let's see what they say about the causes of homosexuality, and if it constitutes this heterosexual grooming that that evangelical movement has tried to push on children. The cause of homosexuality are attributed to man's sinful nature, nurture and environment, and personal choice. How important each factor is, though, is an issue that is debated. Those from the most liberal school usually assume a philosophy of determinism, treating homosexuality as an identity or orientation which one has no choice over, which cannot be changed. This belief is then used to justify acting it out. The contrasting and warranted position is that homosexuality is a choice, and that yielding to ultimately harmful desires, of which choice is partly affected by nurture and environment, as will all choices, faith can overcome unwanted desire. Okay, so there's some buzzwords here. Ultimately harmful desires. What is harmful about loving people that are the same sex as you and wanting to have intimacy with those people that are the same sex as you? Where's the harm? How is that harmful? Is it because that you think that all PPs go in VJs and that is done to make little babies? Because that's not the way that sex works with primates. As primates, we use sex for social interaction as well, to establish status, to express our position in the sexual hierarchy of our group. Monogamy is not necessarily rare among primates. But it is not the standard and not the normal. It is really not the standard or normal among great apes such as you and I. So we are meant to, and have historically, for much longer than monogamy has been the norm, been a polygamous group of primates where we engaged in it was egalitarian. Women had as much choice over their partner as men, and that's been the standard for much of human history. So, in taking partners of the same sex has not been this rare occasion. And there's been people, again, into prehistory, who expressed gender different than their sexuality as well. So that's another feather in the hat here, that we've had cultures that, and we still have cultures. You know, obviously, Western culture has been detrimental to it, but there are cultures that have definitely more than two genders, or a gender spectrum of some kind, where there were individuals that fall at different places along those lines. I digress. I'm rambling. Let's get back to what Conservapedia has to say about homosexuality, causes of homosexuality, the biblical explanation. Now, I know this is what you've all been waiting for, right? You've been waiting for this biblical explanation, because that's what you base your worldview on, is what the Bible says. My audience especially is versed in the Bible. I know I have some brilliant biblical scholars in my midst, people who have definitely read the Bible, and I have some audiences that read the Bible as part of their content. Junk Shop, again, looking at you. I love you and I miss you so much, Junk Shop. You can't see me because I blew kisses and you couldn't see me. I blew kisses to you, Junk Shop. That's what I was doing. I forgot I couldn't be on camera right now because I'm junk shopping so bad. I feel like I'm in Memphis with you right now. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about the Bible. The Bible's important to Conservapedia and to its editors. The Bible being the most comprehensive, transcendent, moral authority, abundantly deals with human nature and behavior, and consistently manifest that the nature of man has not changed since the fall. Oh, there's the fall article. We should explore that sometime too. So the Bible is certainly the preeminent authoritative source when it comes to providing a framework when determining the causes of homosexuality. Because the Bible talks about homosexuality how many times? I think it does talk about it a couple times. I think the Old Testament, of course, you have your Levitical stuff, and then the New Testament, I think it was mostly Paul that was that raged on against homosexuality, not so much Jesus. So I digress. Let's continue here. Man is shown to have been created as perfectly made, beginning Genesis 1:31, yet not as a robot. but as a being designed to be able to make choices which thereby allow him to distort his perfection. God, from the beginning, also joined male and female in lifelong marriage and placed a priority on the family and provided laws as needed for its health and preservation and that of society, while aberrations result from failure to abide by them. For more information, please see Homosexuality in the Bible and Homosexuality and Biblical Interpretations. So, I don't remember God performing a marriage ceremony. Do you? Does anybody remember that being in the Bible where Adam and Eve got married? Maybe he thinks they made a lock and key. I don't know. Nature of man and cause of homosexuality. In the beginning, man disobeyed his creator, and as part of the punishment for doing both mankind and that which he was given stewardship of was negatively affected. In addition to physical decay and the suffering and natural death of living creatures being introduced to the world in Genesis 2:17, 3:17 through 19, Romans 5:12, 17, and 6:23. The fall resulted in the nature of man demonstrating a certain proclivity to sin. However, this does not determine that man must practice a certain sin, nor does it justify man giving into this attraction to sin, as God also gave man the ability to resist. Is it talking about resisting being attracted to somebody? Because God made you attracted to somebody, didn't he? Oh, good. Oh, good, good. I'm glad to hear that, Jason Jacoby. Since I went audio only, it's been no issue. So I'll just, again, I think I can talk to my techie friends, and we can get something set up so I can go. So I can go live again next weekend without so many problems. Hey, next weekend I might have the whole podcast studio for the Hive back. I don't know when I'm going to set it up, but I might have it back by next weekend, in which case, well, we'll see. And also, thank you so much again for sticking in there with me, everybody. Oh, Julie, yeah, I do. I miss Junk Shop. I miss you too. But Junk Shop got me through some of the hardest self-reflecting stuff that I ever had to go through. And that was basically watching them go through it too. I mean, mine went a little bit differently, and I came out full-on lady at the end. And Junk Shop is just this freaking beautiful creature that toes that line, and I was able to watch them flourish and just kind of own their identity, and it made me feel like maybe I could do that too. So thank you, Junk Shop, for being there for me, even though you haven't been able to be there too much lately. I know you have life happening with you as well. So I miss you, babe. Miss you both. Okay, back to Conservapedia. Certainly, negative physical effects of sin are also seen as being progressive. As with time, more disease and other aberrations seem to have occurred. The laws against incest later became necessary. In addition, as men continued to act contrary to biblical moral law, which they knew innately and through creation, conscious, and oral tradition, a formal body of laws was given through Moses, which detailed and codified the immutable morality God enjoyed upon man. Exodus 20, Deuteronomy 4, 8, and 9, Leviticus 18, Galatians 3:19. Additional laws include ceremonial laws, which the New Testament reveals were typological. For more information, please see Leviticus 18. So let's talk about the Mosaic laws. If you want to say those are immutable, I don't want to see any more Christian cookouts with any kind of shrimp or anything on them. That would be, and I know they have the evangelicals because they have big barbecues. I'm always invited to them. Our neighbors and stuff around here always invite us. I haven't been invited to one since I've transitioned, but back when I was a beardy-faced boy, I did get invited to church barbecues and services and Saturday outings and things like that. I did get invited to them, and they always had a great selection, but one of the things that was almost always these Midwesterners, they love their shrimp. They love their cocktail shrimp and sauces. We can't have any more of that if we're going to follow this. If it's immutable, if Levitical law, if the Mosaic laws, if they're immutable, if we're going to cite Exodus, Deuteronomy, Leviticus, and Galatians as the source of the immorality of homosexuality, they're also the source of immorality for eating shellfish and wearing mixed fabrics. So no more. We can't do that anymore. If we're gonna take this position, and I know the people that write these articles are evangelicals. Young Earth Creationists are almost exclusively evangelicals, though I guess some of them are Muslim too. I should clarify on that, but it cites Leviticus specifically. Are we Leviticus? So they came and knew Jesus was supposed to have satisfied the law with his sacrifice and all that, and that's what they'll say when you talk about shellfish and all that. So why can't I play with the boys if Jesus took his sacrifice? I'm male. I mean, I'm not gonna biologically. I'm a male. I'm a woman, but I'm a male woman. If that makes any sense. I know it doesn't to some people who don't understand the differences between gender and sex, but so under the Levitical law, I would be considered a homosexual. I don't consider myself homosexual. For the most part, I do enjoy the company of a lady. I also enjoy the company of a man, though. So I'd be, if anything, I consider myself pansexual. But they would call me a homosexual, or they actually wouldn't even use that term. Probably, if they were talking to me face to face, they'd probably call me a sodomite. But if Jesus said that you can eat your shrimp, your cocktail shrimp on at the Saturday afternoon barbecue for your congregation, or maybe some grilled shrimp. Oh God, I love grilled shrimp with a steak, like a surf and turf. I don't eat steak anymore, but I do appreciate the aesthetics of a surf and turf. It's a wonderful, wonderful meal. I'd probably eat a surf and turf with like a chicken tenderloin or something like that. But I digress. Yeah, if Jesus made a sacrifice so you can have that shrimp cocktail, then I can play with the boys, and you can't say that that's any different, because that's the same book of laws that you're citing there. Then we get to the New Testament, we can engage in that at some point. But here we go. Certain negative physical effects of sin are also seen to be progressive, as with time, more disease. Okay, there we go. So that's the paragraph I just read. I wanted to make sure that they talked about diseases, because there are diseases don't just come around from homosexuality. I know that this was a big narrative for most of the 20th century, up and into the 21st century. These echoes are still circulating. Mostly from the 80s is when this idea that homosexuality was more prone to cause diseases than heterosexual sex. And it's actually a case can be made that the chance of disease is more prominent with anal sex than it is with vaginal sex, by default. Just the nature of the orifice, if you will. But this assumes that heterosexual couples are not also going to be engaging in the asserted sodomy of anal sex, the sodomite, if you want to call us that, because I'll speak from experience that heterosexual couples do engage in that, and some couples engage in that as much, if not more, than the traditional methodology. So, keeping that in mind, linking the nature of diseases that can be associated to be more common from that particular sexual act is not exclusive to homosexuals and should stop being presented as such, because that's just not the case in most relationships. And that's not there are just as many homosexual relationships where they don't engage in that particular act. So it really depends on the couple. So please stop projecting. Where were we? As regards homosexuality, from the beginning of the Bible and throughout, it consistently teaches that God only sexually joined opposite genders through sanctifying them in marriage, having created men and women uniquely compatible and complementary. So, no, I don't think that's true, and I don't think the gender comes up. Well, maybe gender does come up in the Bible. I don't want to say that, because there is some gender expression, at least from what gender expressions were present in the ancient Near East at the time. Was there a third gender in the in any Canaan cultures? If anybody knows that information, please drop it in the side chat. I may have to tag Megan or Josh about this to see if that's something that they'd be able to answer for us. But yeah, to say that what God lays down in the Bible, it's written about the culture that they wanted to establish in the Middle East, which was very important to, because they had a patriarchal society, and having lines of heredity is super important to the Semitic people, and that's how they established their value in their culture, at least back in these eras. So making sure that that the men knew that it was their responsibility to impregnate a woman does not mean that they weren't fornicating with. I say fornicating because that's what the Bible's going to depict it. That they weren't engaging in other sexual acts at the time, but that's just a cultural thing. In contrast to what God has ordained by design and decree, homosexuality is one of many sins, which are the results of man yielding to his sinful nature, and is a form of fornication. Oh my God, I just said fornication, and it's right here. A form of fornication, although a most perverse kind. The prohibition of it is given along with sexual relations with animals in Leviticus 18:23, and is clearly condemned wherever it is manifestly dealt with. Weren't there some church fathers that engaged in homosexuality? I thought there was what verse? Again, I wish Julie, if Junk Shop's there, you can poke them and see. There were the two guys that laid together in the Bible. I want to think it's in. I don't remember. It may have been something holdover from Kings. I mean, Kings is mostly a genealogy, though. Anyway, it compares homosexuality to bestiality here, which is sex with a member not of your species, and they really like to beat this drum to compare. More so now, they compare it with other criminal acts with minors, is what they like to compare or conflate homosexuality with. Matt Pell just released a video about that, which I had to resist responding to. He actually sent it to my friend Ethan. Ethan, who you guys might know, is the friendly neighborhood atheist, your friendly neighborhood atheist, Ethan Michael. And the perspective is still on hiatus, by the way. But he actually sent it directly to him as a proof that homosexuality was a sin, or was objectively wrong. The Bible, as well as history, also evidences that while there are 3 areas in which man sins, those of lust for pleasure, possession, and power, individuals may differ in regards to which type of sins present the greatest temptation for them, with genetics playing at least a part in that. That judgment upon people who gave into specific sins could result in a genetic predisposition to the same sins among their offspring. May be speculated, but it is not proven. Okay. Homosexual. Have we found the gay gene? I don't think that it's not going to be going to be a suite of traits, but I think that as social acceptance for different orientation, gender expression, and such takes hold in our society, that we should expect to see. I'm gonna speculate it's going to be like maybe 30% of the population is not going to be identifying as specifically cisgendered and heterosexual. I think that's going to maybe they'll still be the majority, but I think we're going to see somewhere around a third of the population might be moving forward identifying as something other than cisgendered and heterosexual. We see I think that's where we'll plateau at. I think that once we get her up around, and it may be a smaller number, maybe closer to 20%, but this is just speculation from the way that countries that become more accepting, the way that those numbers increase, and what percentage of their population is presented as non-cis, non-het. Anyway, so yeah, if you're in a culture that oppresses and demonizes your gender or sexuality, you're less likely to want to come out. And damn it, these pop-ups keep dinging. I'm sorry if you hear that. I'll have to fix that too. All right, environment. I don't know how much longer of this we're going to read. Are y'all still with me? Oh, Greg had to leave. Night, Greg. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, unjust laws should be broken. I don't think that this is the own that they're thinking it is, by saying that, yeah, well, we oppressed and demonized these people as sodomites for thousands of years, and they're talked about how gross and awful they were, and that they're just full of sin and lust, and now they want to come forward and have equal rights. It's like, yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. And they say, oh, it's a sign of the fallen society. It's not a sign of a fallen society. It's a sign of a society that's starting to move forward and accept its population for what they are. Because we are a percentage of the population. Deal with it. We're not leaving. We're not just going to go back in the closet because you don't like us. That's just not the way it works. Once I'm out, I'm out. Trust me, of all people. I danced with that foot in that closet for a long time. I poked my head out and pulled it back in. I stepped out and stepped back in. I stood there with one foot in and one foot out. I've been there. I know what that's like to try to do that to yourself. And I know what long-term effects it can have on you and your psychology. So this generations of oppression, this centuries of oppression and demonization and just disgust with people who don't have the same desires as you or what your book says they should, it's over. It's over. We're here. Deal with it. Deal with it, Conservapedia. The record of Sodom, as well as accounts of nations elsewhere, testify that living within the environment of people where inequity abounds is conducive to further the same inequity among succeeding generations, resulting and the necessity of divine judgment when nations become given over to such. Leviticus, again, I hate fucking Leviticus. Leviticus is the absolute worst book of the Bible. I mean, again, I say Kings is a freaking bore, but Leviticus is gross. So Leviticus 18:24, 20:22. Deuteronomy is also fairly gross. 18:12 and 28. What is J-E-R? Is that Jeremiah? Yeah, Jeremiah 14:9 through 10. I didn't know Jeremiah had. Oh, it's Jeremiah's where that's where the story of Sodom and Gomorrah takes place, isn't it? And then Romans 2:2. In Genesis 19, the city. Genesis 19, the city of Sodom is revealed as a place in which men sexually lusted after men, from which the term sodomy is derived. Like as homosexuals use the term gay, although this is contradictory in the end. And Jude 7 refers to Sodom and its region being given to fornication, including unnatural relations. So, the stuff going on in Sodom sounds like it was a Vegas type location. Had the or maybe like Amsterdam type destination where you can go engage in your vices or whatever. And divine judgment. I don't think it was specifically, there was homosexuality going on, but there was a lot more than that. I mean, there was what was there? A rape, I know, was a common circumstance, and that's kind of where divine judgment came from, was the men wanting to rape the servants of the Lord as they came to visit. What the Bible, as well as secular history, reveals is that prevalent homosexuality is concomitant with pride. Is common? I don't know that word. Is that a real word? I don't know that word. With pride, affluence, increased free time, and selfish indulgence and carelessness. What are you talking about? None of those things are linked directly to homosexuality. I shouldn't say never met. I've met a homosexual probably who fits each one of those, but I don't think I've ever met anybody with the suite of traits that you are speaking about, and I don't think that homosexuals express those traits in any larger number than any other member of our population. Therefore, rebellion against God's law and order and the resultant environmental factors are seen to be the cause in promoting sensuality and homosexuality. So I want to say that, the rebellion against God's law is you have to if you're a homosexual. You don't have a choice. God's law condemns you. You don't have a say in that matter. Idolatry and Judgment gives us the homosexual and judgment from God. Check in with the side chat real quick before I start this new section. Oh, how does Brian Stevens not have a wrench? Good grief. And Pixie doesn't have a wrench either. You're going to be a mod if you want to or not. I mean, I don't need everybody to be a mod, but you've got a wrench now. You've got a wrench now, Brian Stevens. Thank you for popping in too. Sorry I'm at such a weird time. Let me. Okay. Question. My chat's way behind again because my internet's slow. Pixie was saying something. We're talking about the Choctaw. the Choctaws' idea of gender. Okay, yes, maybe that's a topic that I could really go into. I would love to have some folks maybe pop into Discord after the stream here. I think I'm just going to read this last section, and I'm gonna call the stream. I'm just wanting to find a good stopping point. I've been going for approaching an hour and a half. Not too bad. That's about how average I do live in Hive. I know I didn't do a HiveScience segment today because I have this really cool layout that I'm going to be starting. It's going to be a new segment. I'll end with talking about that. Let's go ahead and read about idolatry and judgment. In Romans 1, God, through the Apostle Paul, condemned both male and female homoeroticism, which, as a cultural practice, is shown to be a manifestation and a result of idolatry in which man progressively acted contrary to that which God has revealed by creation, by design, and normality. Normality, huh? Normality. What does that even mean? What is normal? Because I think you're looking at a gradient again and thinking that only the people on one end of the gradient are normal. We draw those circles of normality arbitrarily. Jason was talking about this last night on Gur's stream. We decide what normal is, or what the fringe is. Humans do. So normality is not objective. It's depends on your culture, depends on your individual. It depends on a lot of factors. Your individual upbringing, the society, even depends on what species you're in. Do you think the bonobos care about God's judgment for their homosexuality when they do their social bonding through male-on-male sexual acts, which there's history of that with humans too. So it's a social bonding act. Also, kind of a dominance play, but who doesn't like a daddy? This is morality, which is confirmed to be written decree, the law, as the next chapter declares, as a result of this continued rebellion, which was partly manifest in God being reduced to an image like unto corruptible creatures, like as today with homosexuals construing Christ to be homosexual or sanctioning it, as well as a nature effectively being worshipped. There are verses and biblical quotes that we can, and citations we can provide to make a case for a homosexual Christ. I could also make a case for a trans Christ that's really fun if you want to get into it. And maybe I will at some point. It is also stated that a certain afflictive punishment. Oh, did I jump ahead? As a result of this continued rebellion, which was partly manifest in God being, okay, yeah, we'd read that already about God being, or Christ, okay. As it also stated that a certain afflictive punishment of the body were incurred by those men who engaged in relations with each other. Verse 27, unless repentance takes place, worse consequences will follow. About that, Romans. The Apostle Paul, again, he's the one who, in the New Testament, who was all anti-homosexual. I want to say that it was more of a slight against Roman culture at the time, that we were seeing there was a lot of decadence in this empirical society, and that just happens with empires. When they get too big, you start to the upper crust start to live a more decadent lifestyle and oppress the masses more and more as they rise to the top. And the orgies and stuff like that were one of the things that were often pointed out in in Roman society is the pinnacle of their decadence. Roman orgies and purging and all this stuff. There's just a picture painted of the golden age of Rome as this just mass orgy with Caligula and people eating grapes and engaging in all kinds of what they would consider corrupt sexual acts and whatnot. So yeah, that's how Paul would have looked at Rome, I think. So not a surprise. While some seek to render this chapter as only condemning homosexual relations when done as part of idolatry, the condemnation is not due to its association with paganism. Rather, it's inherently contrary to that which God ordained. Then it is a manifestation of false religion, regardless of its form. Though in ancient times, in which religion was an inseparable part of the culture, then formal idolatry was what was more manifested. Romans 1 proceeds to show that homosexuality is not alone as a fruit of idolatry, but that this particular pernicious physical sin is one of many inherently evil things. For more, see Romans 1. In summary, God's eternal power is manifest in his creation, Romans 1:18-20. Nonetheless, certain people chose to worship the creature more than the creator, Romans 1:21-25. Therefore, God gave them up to homosexuality and other sins and gave them over to a reprobate mind. As an example of the truth of this teaching, feminists wishing to deny that the God-given role of women often engage in goddess worship and other forms of idolatry. As a consequence, are often given up to lesbianism. Okay, so that was about as much as I'm going to go into causes of homosexuality here on Live from the Hive today.